Hello. In this session, we are going to talk about three things. First, what is cost management? Then, basic principles of cost-related phenomena in projects, a kind of laws of cost-related behavior that remains unchanged from project to project. And then we are going to discuss about hierarchical structures for cost recording and cost reporting. So let's start to discuss about what is project cost management. Project cost management activities are for ensuring that the project is implemented in a manner that supports the profitability and cost efficiency of the business of the firm, or many firms, that the project is connected to. This means that project cost management is not limited only to activities of project cost estimating, setting the budget, and follow-up and control for keeping the project in budget. So, which things are included in project cost management? First of all, for example, the pricing of the delivery of the project supplier firm. Pricing of project delivery. Then, estimating sales revenue and setting the budget for sales revenue. Planning of cash flows and financing. Adopting the investor's perspective, and for example making investment calculations where necessary. And investment calculations of course bring us the whole system life cycle view. The operability and maintainability of the system after the completion of the project. And in general, ensuring the profitability. Of the project. And one important notion is that we cannot reduce costs and affect costs just by reducing only costs, but something must be done for the project. For example, the project's scope must be adjusted, the kind of end product design. So adjusting scope or project's end product design is important. And we can do this, for example, by adopting a design to cost principle by requiring that the project personnel who is designing the project and implementing it tries to aim to a certain cost level. And in this way, we would control the quality so that there is the right kind of a quality of the project and not over quality. Because it is well known that in projects, for example, if we don't set any limits, for example, the profitability aspirations for the designers and project personnel, there is this phenomenon of feature creep feature creep, which means that project people are adding additional features to the project which are not necessarily needed, and they can even be very dysfunctional and costly, and even cause problems afterwards. And this feature creep is also called gold plating, which means that project people are ambitious, and if they get a task of doing some component part of the project, so of course they want to make a perfect one, and they would aim to do their best to have the best quality of all, and that could lead to over quality. Okay, well, this is project cost management, or these kinds of things are important in project cost management. In this picture, we take a customer's view over the whole life cycle of the system, which project is only part of. And this reminds us from an investment calculation where the revenues are accumulated on the long operations phase of the project. And of course there are also maintenance costs and operations costs over the life cycle, and not only the investment to a project. But however, in the following, we are looking at the project phase of the system life cycle. That is the project execution. And regarding this project phase or execution phase, I'm going to present next the basic principles of cost-related phenomena in projects. So they are the kind of a basic laws of cost behavior in projects that remain unchanged from project to project. So, law number 1. The possibility to influence project level costs decreases steeply in the beginning of the project. And why is that? We are making so many important commitments, contracts, decisions in the very beginning of the project. For example, we are ordering the main equipment that have a long manufacturing time, and they are in the critical path, and that's why we must order them and make juridical contracts where we are committed to have those purchases. And actually, the costs will accumulate a lot later, but we cannot anymore affect the costs in terms of reducing them anymore. But it can be that in the beginning we have already bound all costs through these commitments, and what we can do during the project execution is to try to prevent the costs from overrunning the budget anymore. But the reductions are necessarily not easy to make anymore after the beginning of the project. Then we have here law number 2, the significance of an average decision and its risk impacts decrease steeply in the beginning of the project. Just as I said with the previous law, so there are really important decisions in the beginning of the project, and they must be carefully considered. And they are significant decisions that really hold through the whole project. And of course, the number of decisions is going to increase later on because project and its management in the actual execution is continuous adjustment and small changes, but they are not anymore that significant, those decisions in the later phases. Then we have law number 3. The cost for a change in design in the project scope increases exponentially towards the end of the project. Well, this can be naturally understood that the later we do a change, the more it affects to many other things that the project has already been doing, and there has been reliance on this item, and there has been activities that build on this item that is now changed, and the later we do the change, the kind of a more it affects to other changes, and a lot of rework must be done, and the project must come back maybe to earlier phases and start again doing something which is really costly. Well, next I'm going to discuss hierarchical structures of cost recording and cost reporting. So we move to that theme now. We are familiar with work breakdown structure, which is a project structure. And then we are familiar with organizational breakdown structure, OBS, which is a company organization. And in the intersection there are work packages. When we are doing project cost management, we call these intersections as cost accounts. We record costs there, and we are controlling, we are following costs that are connected to these intersections. Well, now we have a third dimension. And the third dimension is CBS, cost breakdown structure, that has something to do with the accounts of the accounting. So there are cost types, hierarchical structure of cost types, which can be, for example, personnel costs, wages, traveling, then material purchases, service purchases, and income. So this is also a company level structure. And the only structure here, which is kind of a project-specific structure, is VBS, work breakdown structure. And it's then connected to companies, other systems and companies' accounting, and we can detail our, for example, cost estimates and budgets and actual costs by recording them into these structures. Well, what kind of a cost do we record to these hierarchical structures? It is important to recognize what I just said, that we are recording estimates and budgets also to these structures, and not only, for example, actual costs. And the question is that at what level of detail do we want to record, for example, our estimates and budgets? And this is really important that we understand what it means to make a detailed level decomposition, and starting to estimating at a detailed level. It doesn't necessarily lead to better accuracy even, but as an example, we have this cost cube here, what I presented you just like this. And we have a work breakdown structure, organizational breakdown structure, and then we have this cost breakdown structure. And if we think that we have a very simple project, for example, if we have a project of 10 work breakdown structure elements, and we want to record the estimates to the level of all these 10. Then we might have an organization which has 10 departments and they all are participating to the project. We have another 10 there. And then if we have 10 cost types, and then we have a short project, and I draw here a fourth dimension. It's difficult to imagine how the fourth dimension should be drawn, but let's say that we have a fourth dimension of time And we have in this project a 10 months duration. So we have 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, we have 10,000 positions where we can record costs or even go to budgeting at that level. But if we really do so that we go into such a detail, so our project management becomes not the management of a project, but it becomes a management of a system for managing the project, because we must adjust our estimates all the time, because estimates are updated throughout the project until the end. And of course, when we are comparing the actuals to budget, for example, so we get a lot of deviation reports at the very low level, because there will be deviations. We were talking about what is project cost management. We were talking about the basic laws of cost behavior in projects, and we were talking about hierarchical structures of recording and reporting costs. And we emphasized the fact that in projects which are forward-looking vehicles, we don't only record actual costs, but we also record costs well in advance, for example, in terms of estimates. So this is what we learned in this session. Thank you for participating to this session. Looking forward to seeing you again in some other session.